Welcome to the showcase. This is where I interview acts, entertainers, managers, everybody, because I believe people like to know about how they achieve their success. I make these videos for your enjoyment, and I only ask you to watch, share and like. It helps the channel grow. So thank you very much for watching that. Now today's topic, I've got two great guys on here. It's going to be probably a bit controversial, but we're going to try and be honest. And remember, there's no argument, it's only our point of view. You may have a different point of view, but we're just saying it as it is. And we're not trying to upset anybody or antagonise you. It's controversial, and that's the way it is. Now, what I'd like to say is live entertainment dying? I know it's controversial as it is in this video. So we're going to dive into the facts, the state of the live entertainment industry, and explore the trends that are changing the game. From the rise of streaming service to the impact of COVID-19, we're going to examine the factors that affect the way we consume live music, comedy and clubland. So we're going to discuss the future of live entertainment, what it means for an artist, for a venue and for fans alike. Is this entertainment on its last legs, or is it just evolving to meet the demands of a new era? So I'd like to introduce first of all Lee Kamen. Now Lee Kamen's been on the go for years as a singer, as a landlord, a publican, and Lee's done a bit of everything, haven't you, Lee?
I have, yeah, decorating and that bricklaying.
So you've done a fair bit. So you're familiar with the business. And I'd also like to bring in Daddy, is it? Oh no, John Green. Hello, John Green.
Oh, hello, how are you doing? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, good.
Nice to see you again, Yoto.
Yeah, you've been a publican, you've booked acts, you're an act yourself, you do karaoke, so you know, again, what it's like, the business. What I'd like to say is, just recently, with interviewing acts, there's a few things that have come up that people say, you know, we're struggling to get work, or tributes are getting the work, or things like this. Now, I did a bit of research and I found that on Facebook recently 2 huge music festivals have been cancelled, and I investigated why they've been cancelled. 2 things really is, one, people can't afford the tickets, and the second thing is they can't get the people to run the event anymore, because what they say is acts want too much money and they really can't get the ticket money from the event. So we'll talk about that. And secondly, music shops are shutting down left, right and centre. Now, if you live in Hull like Lee and John does, you've got to go to Leeds, York, should I say, to give music. But I'm also going to mention Govan Davy, because they're expanding now. And never before have they had, you know, great guitars and strings and things like that. So they're becoming a local celebrity shop. But a lot of musics are shutting down. Again, I did a bit of research and quite a few shops have shut down now. I'd like to ask you, Lee, why do you think music shops are shutting down?
Well, it's obviously mainly online stuff, and you've got your Facebook marketplace. People just can't afford to be buying new, but obviously the good thing with Gear for Music is I've not had stuff from them before, but I know they're very reliable, because I know if something goes wrong, for us only living in Hull, you can get it down to York and it's near enough repaired straight away, or they're offering you a replacement. Whereas online stuff, you buy, say, a Dynacord and Eevees, 3 months later it's going faulty. What do? You can't afford to be sending big items like that away that's under guarantee. I mean, I'm quite lucky with my stuff. I've never really had it in for repair. I get it serviced regular. I don't overpower it. My peak lights are never on. I've very rarely blown a speaker. So that's probably one of the reasons why music shops are closing down. And you can't afford to sort of keep that amount of stock like Electro Music did in Doncaster. When we all sort of started, that was the place we used to go. There was rooms just full of PA stuff, brand new or second hand.
But Lee, you're talking about 10, 15 years ago when clubs were packed.
Yeah.
Clubs would open 5 nights a week. Now they're barely open. Acts are selling up. and moving on. So, okay, that's a good point that you made, Lee, for people to understand. I'd like to move to John and ask you, John, do you think music festivals are still popular?
The local ones are. Ours are. Ticton, around that area. But I don't know. Like I say, it's down to the economy now. People can't afford them. They can't afford to go anywhere. And they're expected to pay for a rent of a caravan or a mobile home for a weekend, etc. So all the expenses all adding up. And people are trying to pay the same money as what they was paying in the 1990s. They're not going up and up with the economy. They're staying as they are. I mean, I'm still getting offered pay, which I was getting in the 90s. It's ridiculous. So, and the way things are going, the way the banks, I mean, like today, the banks have just said that we're going to keep it at 4%. So the lending's going to be a little bit okay for people at the moment. But everything's changing completely. Since 1996, when they did the no smoking ban, that altered the whole structure of public houses. It changed everything. And people was getting mugged outside because they were smoking outside of a pub. And there was, so people won't come to the pub anymore. They didn't feel safe. They're building their own bars inside the garages, inside the sheds, whatever. And then they go into the big Tesco's or whatever, buying all the cans and inviting the mates round. And they say, well, you've got Lee Cayman's down at Tigers or Lee Cayman's at Willows, and I can't afford it, mate. Come round to ours, come to the shed. So it's ridiculous.
Do you think irrespective of the artist name, like if you've got a real good name like Lee has, very popular, even though the name itself still don't bring people in?
Not now. It's a shame. I mean, I'm seeing, like I said before, I was seeing top-notch artists, like top of the range, and they're sat doing karaoke's because they're not getting the people are not paying the money anymore, and the new faces are coming into the business who don't know who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's like I've had my pubs and clubs, and Lee's had pubs and clubs. We knew all the artists of the day, and we knew there was going to pull people in. So you put the names up there, Rick Owen and all the rest of the names. They're pulling people in. I mean, luckily now Rick's doing a lot more out of town and he's getting the bookings there. But as regards to us round here, everything's, the structure of it's all changing completely.
Yeah.
1,250 pubs since there's no smoking have closed.
And that's a lot of artists lost their jobs. Let me ask Lee a question. Lee, in your opinion, what killed Clubland?
Well, just to correct John, I think the smoking ban was 2007 because I opened in 2005 and we were still smoking in the pubs then. People blame the smoking. That is a knock-on effect, but I blame the 24-hour licenses. When we opened in 2005, we were still on the old licenses, 7 o'clock while 11 o'clock while 3 during the day or whatever it was. As soon as that 24-hour licensing came in, we noticed a difference within that first 6 months of going on to a 20, because we started closing at 2 a.m. Now, before that license came in, at 7 o'clock, we had people queuing outside the door to come in. And at 10:30, we was mega. 1:30, not a lot of people in. As soon as that 24-hour license came in, people then started coming out 9 o'clock, 9:30. That's it. That's your area gone.
Lee, where did that come from, that license? Who wanted it?
It was mainly to do with like being abroad, wasn't it? All the cafe bars and that, there was all 24-hour licenses abroad. And what the councils and the police thought, it would sort of quell the trouble because everybody then going out at, say, 7 o'clock. They thought the trouble would disperse throughout the night. But it made it the opposite because people were going out at 9:30, 10 o'clock. There was already paralytic from drinking at home and drugs. So coming out at 9:30, 10 o'clock into a public house, off their head, causing bother. Whereas if they came out at 7 o'clock, you could monitor it with their beer levels and things like that. So, and then the knock-on effect of the smoking ban. But yeah, me personally, definitely blame 24-hour license. People said about cheap alcohol in supermarkets.
Yeah.
That's always been there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the pub gave you the great atmosphere and meeting with people. All that's gone now.
Lee, I had an opportunity of interviewing Dr. Jarve. Everybody knows him, and he's been going years. He's probably done every club in England. I asked him the same question, and he said the organist and drummer, when they stopped those. Do you honestly think an organist and drummer killed the club atmosphere?
No. What happened to me, because I was at Ritz with keyboard and drummer.
Yeah.
But the thing with keyboard and drummer, you was on sheet music, so you was restricted. If a song came out in the charts today, you couldn't, like we can do now, download it off YouTube, get a backing track. You could go out on that night and do a popular song. If you had to, back in that day, do a chart song, you had to wait for the sheet music to get written, which could be a month. By the time you do that month, that song has gone, and then you turn up at a club and the keyboard player would say, "Phew, I don't know that one, mate. I'll do it by ear." So no, a lot of the bigger clubs lost their clientele when the keyboard and drums went. But to me, it was a better option because then it gave an artist a bigger range of material to work with.
It did, but when you have perfect backing tracks and you have solid pumping gear, and you just sound like the record. There's no feeling anymore, like Dave said. Yeah. Let me move on to John, because we're not going to go on all night about this. John, the economy at the moment is absolutely in dire straits, and you've got problems now all over the world. We've got a war with Iran and Israel, which is affecting the oil prices. We haven't seen it yet, but they say petrol's going to double within the next couple of weeks. That's going to be a knock-on to the beer, the breweries again. And as an ex-landlord yourself, how do you think that's going to affect people booking acts? That's just not going to bring people in, is it?
Yeah, well, people are just going to have to put money to one side if they can afford it. But I mean, you've got parents who've got children, and it's school holidays coming up as well, so they've got to cater for the children. But like Lee said, he rightly said, I didn't even think of that about the 24 hours as well. It did affect everything. It affected everything. But it was like when it was, people knew there was opening at 7 o'clock or whatever, and pubs used to close on an afternoon for an hour and then reopen again. So it's like cattle. You concentrated you knew how many people was coming, how much staff to put on. You even knew, because the gyros was every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks you knew to put 2 extra staff on because to get the gyros. So everything was all structured.
Yeah.
But now there's no structure anymore. Now it's totally gone. Everything's disappeared now. You just don't know how many staff to put on, and if you put so many on, there'll be nobody in.
I stayed at my daughter's pub, and they shut 11:30 every night, so they didn't go on or anything like that past 12 o'clock. During the day, you got the stragglers in over lunchtime, but then afternoons, they was dead. So what's the difference? This licence that's supposed to so-called 24-hour boozing hasn't really made much of a difference, has it?
No, it's spread. It's to spread the jam thin, basically. Instead of focusing, like you used to get Thursday pay packets, and then Thursday was the busiest nights at one time, and then it went on to banking system and stuff like that. But now they're paying back debts from lockdown.
Yeah,
myself included. We're still paying debts from lockdown. So money is not as plentiful as it used to be, unfortunately.
No, it's not. And as an ex-landlord yourself, going back, say, 20 years ago when Clubland was really busy, Lee was working 5 nights a week, I was working 5 nights a week in Clubland. It was fantastic. The pubs didn't have any... That's it, yeah, I was glass collecting. The pubs didn't have singers, did they, John?
Well, they did and they didn't. Mine did. I put them on all the time. I mean, Lee used to come to Yorkshire. Denise and John put Lee on all the time. And Rick Owen, myself, we were continuously having acts on in the Yorkshire. This is why it got the name as the best pub in Hull.
Yeah, well, he was only paying him 25 quid, wasn't you?
Shh. You don't tell people that, do you?
Look.
But yeah,
Let's go back, John, to the controversial thing. Entertainers are struggling. Do you agree?
yeah,
Do you agree, Lee?
they are.
Yes and no.
Right.
I believe, in my opinion, the entertainers that are struggling are the ones that aren't working on their acts. They're not keeping their material up to
Is
date.
somebody's phone going?
The answer machine will kick in. Sorry.
Yeah, they're not keeping their acts up to date. There's so many acts still about round here that are still doing the same act that they was doing in the 1970s and 80s.
Right.
They're the ones not getting the work. Even though I work now during the week, my phone, I can still do 7 afternoons and 3 nights a week if I wanted to round here. Because I know I can go to a venue this afternoon, do an hour and a half. I can go back to the same venue tomorrow and do a different hour and a half. I am constantly learning new songs, clothes. Marnie Black is probably a prime example of an act that she was an acoustic guitarist. She came on to the local live scene with us lot, started doing a normal act. She wasn't too happy with doing like normal sort of music, so she worked on a Pink tribute. Brilliant. She's now working on a Cher tribute, which is going to be amazing. So you need to put in that work to get that work back, if you know what I mean. And some acts, they're not doing it.
But if the work isn't there, Lee,
the work is there though, Sean. That's the thing.
It's still there, is it?
The thing is what a lot of these acts during the week, to me, I mean, I don't mind mentioning prices. Certain venues during the week, you can get 80 quid for doing an hour and a half, sometimes even an hour in an afternoon. Some people work a full day to try and get 80 quid. So you get some acts will say, I'm not doing an afternoon for 80 quid. But then 2 weeks later, they're messaging me, probably messaging John, oh, Lee, if you hear of any work, will you let me know? And you can't give them it because they want too much money. Yeah, we all want the big money, but do some of these smaller gigs during the week because the places haven't got the money. They're not getting the clientele. There is some busy places where you think, yeah, you're taking the mick a bit. You could pay a bit more. But I'm quite happy. Before I took this job, I was doing 5 afternoons a week. I wasn't bothered about my Saturday and Sunday nights then.
But you're an entertainer, Lee.
Yeah.
You're not just a singer, you're an entertainer. Can I ask you, if you book a singer and they're stood in under the dartboard or next to the pool table and the tellies are on and they're just singing, what is the point of booking an act? Can I ask you?
Well, sometimes, John will know this, some of these local pub chains have a budget. So they'll be given a budget each week to put on an artist. Now, I've seen some places lately where you're actually going in, you're singing to nobody, and you'll say to the landlord, why do you have an act? Well, we have to put an act on because that's what the budget's for. If we don't put it on, we lose that budget. And that's what's happening with these big pub chains. So even though you go to another one that isn't a pub chain and you're playing to 2 or 3 people, they're the ones that are struggling. And you say to them, why have you got an act on? Well, I'm trying my hardest to try and get people in because it's their own money. But that's where it's becoming difficult. And to me, I always said that if this singing ever became a job where I'm going out and all I'm looking forward to is getting finished and getting me money and going home, I would cut it down. And that's what I've done because I want, and I don't enjoy it as much as I do now because I'm looking at my watch thinking 3 minutes, that's another song, I'll be finished, I'll get my money going home. There's still a few places about now where you don't want to come off, and I would sing there for now because it's still enjoyment, but there's not a lot about like that now.
John, let's move to you.
True.
You're karaoke presenter, and you're probably one of the most popular around because, again, you're an entertainer. You don't just say, right, we have John Smith next, here's this song, they do a song, then you say, right, Mary's song. You get involved and you give them a show. Is it? I know this is going to be, people are not going to agree with me here. Is it better to have a karaoke and get the pub full and enjoying it, or is it better to have an act?
No, I won't say either's better, to be quite honest. Because, to be fair, having an act is just as good as having a karaoke sometimes. And nowadays there's some really good singers on the karaoke who won't do the circuit. I mean, Lee's probably said to other people, you should be doing the circuit, you've got a lovely voice. So the ones that come to us are really good singers. So it's like a show. And I do a lot of comedy as well. I do a lot of messing about. I give everybody nicknames and they write them on the request slips. But going back to the new managers and stuff, most are what you call a retail partnership with them. So I know one of them is on 32%. He has to make the money to get 32%, and that whatever his 32% is, has got to come out of the chunk of money for the week or for the month. And they don't. I mean, one of them hasn't paid me until they've got their percentage. So I've had to wait a few days. I won't name no names because it's a really good place to work. But one of them, I was talking to a guy. I won't mention his name. He owns a fish and chip shop. He's very popular. He had pubs, and he turned round and he said they was on 32%. The people who took it over are on 17%. You can't live like that. You cannot live. So no wonder they're not booking acts, because they have to pay everything out their own money. So they might get somebody who might say, I'll tell you what, mate, I'll come and do it for a few beers. How's that? How's that? Get a few in. But they're not going to get artists in. They're not going to get the right people. So those venues will start to fill up with the wrong type of people. And I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but you've got the people that work who've got money and they can pay and have a good night. Whereas the flip side is, if they're on a small percentage, they're not paying for good acts to get good people in. So the venues are going to go down a little bit, and they're going to wonder why.
Do you think some pubs, or even clubs I'm talking about now, Lee, you work at a big club, one of the biggest in Hull, can the wrong act empty the place?
Yeah, I mean, when I took over Walton nearly 2 years ago now, first thing I said to Walton was, you need to change the standard of the entertainment. So they said, oh, what do you mean, Lee? I said, look, I'm not being funny, but you've got acts who are on that board there that you could see in the pub next door last night or tomorrow night. And they're not putting them down. They're not club acts. You can't stand on stage talking to your laptop and not having an interaction with the audience. So I said, you need to change that. So we need to get the budget up. Now we're at the stage now, we are the biggest club in Hull. Our budget for entertainment is superb. But solo-wise, we hand-pick solos locally. They're all on the same money. I have other acts messaging me and saying, oh, yeah, I'll do it. How much do you want? Well, I want this. Well, no, we don't pay that. It's a standard amount because John will know this. I see things from both sides. With having a pub myself, if an act comes into our club on a Saturday night and they're paid 200 quid as a solo and they're bringing 2 people with them, that doesn't really bother us. But then if I've got an act saying to me, well, I want 300 quid and they've only brought 2 people in, this is why our budget's like it is, and this is why we pay the same budget for all our... Some of the bands are different because some of these bands bring, like Venus, prime example, Tony and Alex, our best paid duo act, but bring about 50 people with them. So that money spent behind the bar warrants paying that extra. So when a solo says to me, well, I want 300 quid, well, you're not going to get... Yeah, but I'm a top act. I don't care if you're a top act or not. You will not. If I put John Green on Walton Club on a Saturday night, he will have the same people in as Rick Owen the week after or Steve Adams the week after. And this is where acts are going wrong. You cannot demand a fee to a pub or a club if you're making no difference to that room on a Friday and Saturday night. And landlords fall for it.
True.
Bands are a little bit different. Bands do tend to bring quite a few people with them, even if it's 10, 15, 20 people. They can spend that band money.
There's not many bands around now, is there? You know, because they can't get the work.
Well, we that's the primary the good thing for Walton is now we book some really good bands, Sean, that are local bands, and we know they're getting cheaper fees elsewhere, but we pay the top money now on a Saturday night because when you started, John, Sean, Walton Club was the premier club in this city. You didn't get a solo act in there on a Saturday night. You had to be a massive standard. It was always duos, trios, bands like Housequake, Savage Onion.
Yeah.
Because people want that that stage is so big. And luckily now we're averaging 200-300 people sometimes on a Saturday night. Our bingos, we do 4 bingos, £180 a house, £300 the last house. So 11 o'clock we are still busy.
That's good, Lee, but can you get the wrong act that can get rid of the people? And can you see the people leaving?
I tend to now vet, because obviously Mark from Kingston books a lot of acts, and Mark knows that they have to be a certain standard. So even our out-of-town acts that are coming, they're all going really well. Just the odd band lately that we haven't booked ourselves that have maybe a band has cancelled and they've put in themselves. I've not seen them. We have lost custom. Not necessarily the band's fault, but they're not a club act. In a pub, they would be absolutely superb. But in a club, different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
You have to work the audience.
Yeah.
If you can't work an audience, you shouldn't be on that stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't be there at all.
John's.
When I'm like Lee, I get involved with people, I get people involved with me, I give them crack jokes and make it all, good blow of banter. I sing as well, I've got a solo act, so I can keep everybody in. So like Lee, you know what I mean? You've got to be an entertainer, you can't just stand there like a cardboard cutout.
But John, some people go in a pub don't want an act on, so they're not going to go in that pub that's got the act on, are they?
Exactly.
So it's a difficult business to be in. Do you think, Lee, and I know we ain't got a lot of time now, you have to go. Lee, do you think COVID affected the business terribly? Did a lot of acts give up the ghost?
Yeah, during COVID, a lot of acts took full-time jobs. I did myself. A lot of acts retired. Andy Wilkins, prime example, an amazing comic.
Yeah.
Up to 2020, when COVID kicked in, Andy was still probably one of the best comedians in the world. Cruise ships, week in, week out. You never saw Andy. COVID came. That's it. A lot of comics tried to do like the live videos at home. You need an audience as a comic. You need to be sharp every week. People like Mick Miller and people like that were quite fortunate because they were still doing places like Dubai and things like that was still open at the time. So Mick and them still had an act throughout, but no, a lot of acts retired and took full-time jobs, and they've kept at it ever since. Hence the reason now my phone still rings every day. I've had a phone call a couple of hours ago from Chris Marshall. Can I do this afternoon for him? He's not very well. He couldn't do the gig. You cannot get artists to cover gigs because literally there's nobody. But
so there's a lack of artists. There's a lack of artists.
There's a lack of artists.
Oh yeah.
So John, why do you think
when I was poorly, I came back from being poorly, and I thought I can't keep booking stuff in and letting people down because I don't know I'm health-wise how I'm going to be. And what I realised last May, when I started doing this and not taking bookings and just posting on Facebook, I'm free this week. My phone never stopped. So I'd get a phone call in the morning, Lee, are you still free today? Yeah. Can you do this? Now, if I said no to that gig, don't matter, it's not my gig. I'm not letting somebody down. I'm not having to cancel. But I always try my hardest to help people out, and I still do the same now. I hardly have any bookings in at all. It's just mainly working off cancellations because I know there's a lack of acts.
Yeah. Last word from you, Lee, before we move on to John. Which is best, working with an agent or booking direct?
A bit of both, because there is venues won't touch an agent, will not bother whatsoever with an agent because they know they've got a good list of acts themselves that are going to be reliable, professional, going to give them a good night or a good afternoon. But then you've got other venues that won't touch an artist direct, which you can understand because that's the same. The agent's got the same rapport with the venue. They're sending them good acts. Why take a risk of booking a direct act that might not turn up? And it's not very nice if an agent books a venue when they book their own direct act, and at last minute they're ringing an agent because their direct act has let them down. A lot of agents now are just saying, sorry, I ain't got anybody. Even though they have, they're saying, sorry, I ain't got anybody because you don't book with us.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So is live entertainment on the brink of collapse, Lee?
I don't think so.
You
I
don't,
don't think so, no.
Okay.
I think on a night time it is.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, it's slowly coming back because what I've noticed with venues now, a lot of the time it was like 4 o'clock while 7 afternoons or 2 while 5. You're getting a lot of venues now doing, say, 1 while 3. Another venue will do 4 while 7. Another venue will do 7 while 9. All on the same day. So when you look at what happens abroad, you see all these acts are doing 4 or 5 gigs a day because they're going from venue to venue. Now, I've always said, if there was more venues like mine that's got a superb PA system in, that have their own PA systems, we could do that here. We could have 2 clubs on a Saturday night where I could book an act for, say, 150 quid, and then another act comes and does the second set for 150 quid. That way you're getting a good variety with the audience, but it would only work if that club has a decent PA system. And that's not going to turn up and try setting up gear for 45 minutes.
No.
But no, I
Lee,
personally think it's all right, Sean.
Years ago, Tom Ivers at Cream Entertainment used to do that. You'd get 3 gigs with him in Manchester, Oldham, and that.
They still do it, Sean.
Do they really? My
They
God.
still have the Manchester doubles, and I know there's some about in like Wakefield and Leeds and stuff like that. Because I was doing all them before I did Walton, and even now you can do a gig. An agent will try his hardest to get you a gig in an afternoon. If you're in Leeds, he'll try and get you a gig in the afternoon and a gig on the night.
Wow.
So you're doubling your money.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Lee. John.
Right, I'm going to shoot off, Sean, because I've got to get
smashing
kids to school. Nice to see you, John, again.
Lee, you're a star.
Thanks for joining us, Lee. Take care.
See you soon, Lee. Take care.
Bye, Lee. So, John, is live entertainment on the brink of collapse?
I can't see it being on the brink of collapse. It's on the brink of getting decent acts. That's what, like Lee was saying, they're not up to date. I think I probably class myself in that same category as well sometimes, because I don't. But there again, my audience is an older audience, and they do like all the older stuff. So I do power ballads and stuff like that. But as it's like Housequake used to be up to date with every single song they did, and I used to book them when I had the Quigley's nightclub. I used to book Housequake, and there was always up to date. I think nowadays people are not doing that now, so there's less and less.
John,
bookings for them sort of people.
I need to stop you, because if every act went in and they were singing up to date songs, every club or pub would get the same songs. What about the variety? For example, years ago, when I came back, I was just doing 45 minutes of the Eagles, 45 minutes of Smokey. They're years old music, and people loved it.
And the good thing is, Sean Martin, the name whatever act you was using at that time, you was well known for that, so you pulled in the crowd for that particular genre. You see what I mean? Whereas my act, it is an act because I do a lot of comedy and stuff, but I can't have a specific genre because it's all different people singing all different sorts of stuff. But what I try to do is, if someone sings a modern song, I'll go with a modern one alongside it. If they sing an older one, I'll sing an older one. So it keeps it going. And if I don't sing one, I'll play one that matches what they've just sung. So it all blends into, but I don't have any quiet spots. There's so many, if a lot of people go to places where there's quiet spots and it's too quiet, and they say, oh, give me a minute while I get my next song, and it goes quiet, that's when you start losing the audience. It's got to be continuous. It has to be momentum. There's got to be something there.
But on the flip side of that, magic. John, karaoke can be troublesome.
I have had that in the past, but it's been sorted really quickly. To the point, I've even done it, not many times, But because I'm the one on the microphone with the big speakers, and someone's giving me a little bit of that, I'll repeat on the microphone what they're saying to me, so the entire pub can hear it. And they go, "Shut up, shut up, shut up." I go, "No, I won't shut up. You're here threatening me because you don't want to fill a request slip in, and you want to get on next, otherwise they'll smash the gear."
Oh dear.
And this is what you get. Well, these are people who are doing white lines, and just people are gone, and you don't see them anymore. The majority who come to me are lovely people. They really are, and I'm respectful to them as well. Even the ones who try to be cocky and stuff like that, I mimic them. Then they see I'm joking. I'm having a laugh with them, but the audience, as regards to losing people, I'm finding less and less people are coming to my gigs because they can't afford it.
Yeah. So
they can't afford it at all.
So the gigs that you do, sometimes do they have live entertainment and then they have a mix? So one day they'll have karaoke, one day they'll have a singer, the next day they'll have a comedian. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it is. And besides, I mean, like sometimes they'll book me as a solo act as well. So I'll not only do a karaoke, but they'll say, "Oh, well, we want you to come down this time, but we want you to do the solo acts." And I go, "Yeah," but I still finish up letting people sing.
Yeah,
you can't help it.
Well, John, look, we'll look at the economic pressures and consumer spending. You know, does that affect pubs and clubs?
Oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely. It affects. I mean, the cost of buying groceries for one. First of all, they've got to fill the freezers up. They've got to fill. They've got to get the coffee in. They've got to get the washing up liquid. They've got to get all the freezer stuff. That's got to be taken care of. Now they look at what's remaining. If they had £200, they probably got 50 quid left.
Yeah, I understand.
And they think, what can I do with 50 quid?
And you look,
and then they don't want to go out with their friends because they have to buy rounds.
Yeah.
So they can't afford rounds, but they don't want to look silly.
You're looking at a £5 for a pint of Guinness now, aren't you? So,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
John, I did a bit of research before we finish today. I just want to talk to you about workforce challenges. A lot of people say the live music sector is experiencing workforce issues, with reports that people don't want to work behind a bar. Live music is considering leaving the industry due to low pay and poor work-life balance and a lack of career progression. What's your opinion on that?
With the live stuff, now that's a different kettle of fish to me. I don't get a chance to see many of these because I'm working on the same days they're working.
What about bar stuff?
As regards to, again, the people they don't know how many staff to put on. That's the problem. And you've got staff who rely on the work, and they say, "Well, we've got a band in, but I don't know if they're going to pull many in. So you two don't work tonight, and I'll just put you two on. But can you be on the end of a phone just in case? I'm going to call you." It's like this, they've got to be on standby as opposed to knowing exactly where to be on a night.
And that's no good for anybody, is it, John?
No, it's not at all. It isn't at all. I was talking to one of my friends last night, and she works behind a bar. And was putting on a certain type of an event. I won't say what it is. It's yours and our friend. And 2 people turned up.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And she sent home. It's not her fault. Well, you know what I mean?
It's also like the artist, for example. An agent will ring up and I might have a gig for you tonight. So you're thinking, you get your hopes up. So you're waiting. Now it happens. And they don't ring. And then you ring them back and say, "What happened to that gig?" "Oh, I filled it where they didn't want an act or something." That's really it would make me pack my gear up and sell it, if I had to live on that attitude. Do you think that's causing a problem, John?
I think the whole industry is
struggling.
It needs sorting out. It needs something doing to it structurally. It needs people to know who people are.
Yeah.
And like Lee was saying, they book acts through an agent who have been vetted. People are coming out the woodwork and say, "I've just bought myself some gear. It looks easy. I've seen people doing that. I'll go on the stage and I'll do it." In the early days when karaoke was quite very new, people was watching me, and I think I was making it look too easy because I was buying the equipment. I finished up buying it all off them. I had 6 rigs going out at any one time. I had like an agency. You can't do it nowadays because I mean, I could put them in any venue. I could ring a venue, want one tonight, yeah, I'll have one. It was like the olden days when you lost your job, you went to another job in the 50s and 60s. You can't do that now. You lose your job, you're fighting like mad to get another one.
Yeah.
And then you put your name up, and then somebody might recognise you and ring you up and say, "I've just seen you. Can you come tonight?" I go, "Yeah, please, thank you."
Yeah.
You know, and you're thankful for the work.
Yeah.
Where before you could pick and choose.
Thank you, John. We've been talking about is live entertainment on the brink of collapse, and from Lee Cayman's point of view, he doesn't think so. He wasn't 100% positive. Your opinion, is live entertainment on the brink of collapse, John?
No.
No, you say
it's not on the brink of collapse. It just needs structure, and it needs agents who have been vetted or vetting people. I mean, some people, like I know good people get their own work. I get my own work quite a lot. I'm not with an agent at all. I get my own work. But as regards to clubland and publand, clubs are disappearing off the face of the earth. There's like two. There's two now in the whole. And as regards to pubs, they're up for lease. They're up for rent. You rent this pub, look after this pub. It's not the entertainment, it's the rates, it's the pub rates, it's the management they put in place, not running it properly.
So John, we can change the vocabulary. Instead of saying is live entertainment on the brink of collapse, we can say is clubland on the brink of collapse. And I think both you and Lee would say yes.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of John Green, we had Lee Cayman who had to shoot off because of other commitments. We've been talking today about a lot of controversial issues, and as I said, there's no point texting John or Lee saying I don't agree with what you said, because basically it's only your opinion. If you have your opinion, you can certainly comment on the YouTube site and we'll get back to you, because we do like to have your feedback on the YouTube site on how generally you feel about. So, once this video's posted and you've seen it, please comment, is Clubland on the brink of collapse, or is entertainment on the brink of collapse? It'd be nice to hear from you. On behalf of John Green, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
On behalf of me, Sean Martin, Showcase, keep watching. We can't do this without you. Thank you.